another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games from the Game Pass collection, bringing you 4 unique perspectives of varying skill range.
What?
I am the Sarge of this episode, Andrew. With me, Sheila the Tank, Liz,
Hey guys.
and with us are Donut, Keith,
Hello.
and bringing up the rear, Caboose.
Hey, hey.
And this week, we had a listener request. So thank you so much, David Spare, who's been requesting heavily that we play Halo Reach. This is now the 4th Halo game that you've played, Liz. So Aaron's played them all, and this is what Keith's second? No, I think he played Halo 2. Oh, you did Infinite.
Hold up.
I've played all of the Halos in some capacity
Okay.
throughout the years. Like I've played them all, whether or not I played them in depth. I've never played all of them in depth, but especially throughout the years at your house and stuff, like you guys always had Halos. I was just always playing Halos.
I was gonna say there is no way you weren't at a LAN party.
Oh, multiple times. Yeah, I said let's not confuse it. Yeah, I have played more than 2 Halos. I just never played them regularly. I really only played them with you guys for the most part.
So what Andrew
What's a
had
LAN party?
You know, LAN, like before
oh.
internet, you
Oh,
connect
oh.
Xboxes to each other with a
Missing
cord.
Uh,
okay.
Oh,
it is
Liz.
about the nerdiest thing you could do in the mid 2000s, but also the coolest thing you could do in the mid 2000s.
I say, or
We
in the
had, like,
2020s.
Remember we had like 50-foot Ethernet cables
Yeah.
running from upstairs all the way downstairs to the back of the house. Like,
I remember carrying tube TVs around
Yeah.
your house, like up and downstairs.
people would be
Yep.
sitting in the kitchen, like they'd have a TV sitting in the kitchen. What's funny is LAN parties have kind of come back a little bit. Like you'll
That's
see
what I was saying. It's like
online-
the coolest thing in 2020. And
Yeah,
the lamest
you'll-
thing
you'll
in
s-
2020.
you'll see people
Just
just
about.
kind of huddled around computers mostly, playing, which is it kind of cracks me up that it's still going strong even with online internet play being pretty normal right now.
Yeah.
Miss those days.
I know they were a ton of fun. We had the best parents where they were just like, all right, we're getting a hotel. You guys can have the house. There was a couple times, a couple friends were close to burning the house down with a pizza, but
I mean,
it always worked.
we
out.
gotta eat.
Yeah, but outside of that, they were just like, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of nerds. You're not gonna do anything bad. You're just
No,
gonna do nerd
we would
things."
literally be up playing Halo till 5 in the morning.
Yeah, there was no trickery. There was just us doing nerd things. I
Very
think
much
that
so.
helps your parents' ability to be like, yeah, go ahead. We just don't want to be present for this.
Makes sense.
All right, but so let's get to this. So we did Halo Reach, which, if you're kind of a newer listener, Halo Reach is Bungie, the original creators of Halo, Bungie Studios. This was their last Halo game before they passed off the IP to 343 Studios. But going around, I guess the story a little bit. Halo Reach is a prequel to the original Halo games of Halo 1, 2, and 3 in ODST, where you are playing Noble Team, which is the last, well, not the last Spartan, but a Spartan team that is tasked to try to survive and complete a final mission on Halo Reach, which is a main military base that ends up getting taken over by the Covenant. But going around, I'll start this off because Aaron's fiddling with something over there. For me, for Halo
That's on me.
Reach, I'm probably going to piss some people off with this. This is still a game, but this is probably my least favorite Bungie Halo. So if you are going to play one Halo, I would say not do Halo Reach. Granted, because a lot of this too, even with the story, is definitely it's like, oh, we expect you to know. You've played the other Halos. They talk about Reach all the time. You should know what's going on. If you do not know what Reach is or what's going on, I think you're going to be easily lost, which I'm sure Liz could probably attest a little bit. But I think the game is still a lot of fun. It's still a Halo, so it's a lot of fun. But to me, I didn't find there to be as many iconic levels. Its music is kind of not as good. It's still very good, but everything about it was always meh about me, even the multiplayer. So to me, this is my least favorite Bungie game, but it is still definitely a game. Check it out.
Liz going?
Let
Go ahead,
Liz
Liz.
go because she's the noob here.
Okay, so this isn't my favorite Halo game, but it's not my
Okay,
least
So
favorite.
it's not just me.
The multiplayer. What was the multiplayer one that I asked you about? I already forget. You told me the answer.
Halo Wars.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Well,
really
that's a real-time
fond of.
strategy. It's yeah. they
Yeah,
all
but it's
have
still
it.
Halo.
Yeah.
That was probably my least favorite. This one I really did like, I think something we'll get into it later story wise that kind of made it my least favorite of the regular Halo games. So it's still a game. I mean, I really like Halo, and I can't give it a pass. But I did enjoy it. I played the whole thing. I love doing these games multiplayer because
They're great co-op games. Yeah.
yeah, I mean we're gonna get into it more later, but I have to say when I die and then get spawned back and I have full ammo, like so yeah, game.
You know, this kind of hit at a good time. I just miss these games,
Yeah.
and I miss the storytelling of these. And this was such a nostalgia hit for me because I remember when this came out, and I remember playing this game, and I remember how cool this was that we were getting a prequel that really directly tied into the first Halo game. I had to do a little research today though, because when I was playing it, I was trying to remember, you know, where was this in the timeline of Halo? Because I really couldn't remember. I kind of thought that this was between 2 and 3, but it wasn't. It was actually after. So I was like, okay. So
Wait,
You
when it
had-
launched or the story?
when it came out, yeah, not the
Oh.
story. When it launched,
Oh, when it came out, this was Bungie's last Halo. So this was
Yeah.
after 3.
Which I didn't really remember. So they said that 1, 2, 3 came out, and then the studio split in two. One team did ODST, which is probably my least favorite of the group. That should have been so much more.
Mm,
And
I love
Reach.
ODST.
I think ODST, I understand it. I understand why it's cool. And that's what I'm saying. I think it should have been so much more. So when playing this, I was kind of trying to think like, would you call this a part of the main Halo series, or would you almost call this like a an expansion? Because to me, if you were to just find Reach as an expansion to Halo, I would be like, oh, this makes way more sense to me. Because it doesn't.
Its gameplay is so drastic, though.
That's the other thing. That's the other reason why I had to look this up, because I don't like Halo 4, and I don't really like
Yeah.
Halo 5. This was honestly probably the last Halo I loved.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Infinite of the more recent ones. I don't mind, but this was the last one I remember truly loving. But yeah, your pickups, being able to sprint, being able to do that armor lock thing, I was like, man, when did that happen? I thought that was all Halo 4. I
Nope.
did not really remember that being in Reach until we replayed it. But gosh darn, it just feels good to play these games again. A game that had a thought out story. The story, and especially when you play Halo 1, all kind of makes sense. So it's hard for me to play this and not feel a little sense of, man, I miss this. Yeah, this is a game for me. This is a game. I miss this so much.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Like,
There's the
Halo,
start.
Halo in general is like really one of the first person shooters that like focused on story in any way. Like, I'm sure there was some others that came before, but I feel like they were the first that really like. It was, you know, it
I mean,
obviously
Half-Life.
the shows.
Some would
Okay.
argue like Half-Life was more story driven, and that came
Yeah.
out before Halo.
Okay. But either way, like I guess too, I'm thinking just especially like these like war style anything. But I guess like I think the biggest thing for me is that, you know, as I said, I have played probably all of the Halos at some point throughout the years in some capacity. Now, to that point, I don't think I could truly differentiate aside from graphically where I stand in a Halo timeline. I know there's some that I can sprint. I know that there's some that I can't sprint. I know like there's weird little things that I know are different throughout it. And I'm like, okay, I remember like that's how I could probably pick it up as a trigger. But story wise, I have no idea. Because for the most part, I've never fully played the storylines of all of these. Like that's the biggest thing I haven't done. I've mostly always played multiplayer if I played Halo. I didn't on this one. I was doing the story and I got it probably about halfway through it. I probably could have finished it. I know it's wicked short. But story wise, I kind of just was like, okay, cool, Halo. I knew it was a prequel somewhere. Like timeline wise, is it like Halo 1 prequel, or is it
It's Halo 1
okay,
prequel. Literally, the
like
game
full
ends with the
as
beginning
Halo?
cutscene of Halo 1.
Okay, so that explains some of the things that I at least kind of found funny from a story perspective. But gameplay wise, I this is something too that I'm like, I don't know if it's a Halo thing, but some of the way that the controls work on this were just absolutely drive me bonkers. But that's neither here nor there. You know, all you really want to hear from me right now is Gamer Pass. I mean, overall, yeah, it's a game. It is. I just know I'm on the wrong side of history if I say anything other than that. It's just that nothing for me personally gets excited to play a Halo game, as you know. But I have questions, and I'm gonna get to those.
All right. Well, starting the story of this. So yeah, as you know, as I said, this is Bungie Studios' last attempt at the Halo series. You are playing Noble 6, which is a Spartan that is going into the Noble team. They lost their 6th member, so you are replacing some previous person. You don't know what happened to the previous Noble 6, but you are with this team, and then all of a sudden you start getting these weird messages. People are starting to go quiet. You start investigating, and you find out the Covenant are on Reach. As I said, Reach is a planet that is the main central military planet of all of humanity. So this is where the Spartans were born and raised and trained to be the soldiers that they are. So this is kind of the last bastion of all the Spartans, which is why after this, in Halo 1, Master Chief is told that he's the last surviving Spartan. But the story, it's I hate starting off with the story, I hate prequels. I generally do not like them because you already know what's going to happen. And so because of that, I have so much more disconnect when it comes to a story in a prequel. Because literally this game starts with seeing your helmet on the ground covered in like dirt and grass. So it's kind of like, okay, so I have an idea what's going to happen at the end of this game. So the whole entire time I'm just like, I know not to get too attached to these people because I'm like, oh, I know what happens here. So this is why my first kind of complaint of compared to the other Halos. The story is good. I like the characters. The characters are still good with what's going on, but for me, it's just I don't like prequels.
I agree. And for me, knowing the outcome, I was able to really guess the steps that were gonna come.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how much I can say. Like, I mean, it's an old game, but I don't want to give spoilers.
2010.
Yeah, but I mean, I guessed it all. Like people being picked off, the end, which I think was
You
supposed
didn't
to
guess
be.
the first one. You're like Andrew, does he die? Andrew, does he die?
Well, no, I
You're
meant
getting
like
very mad at me.
then. Like I mean, I knew everyone was going to
No.
die, but like even the end, which I think was kind of supposed to be shocking, it wasn't. When you're fighting at the very end, and so for me, it's like yeah, and then George, he was my favorite. It's
So Jorge or George?
It's George.
With George. Yeah.
I do. He
Oh,
kept calling him George, so that's
okay. No, I
you
just
could be right. I don't know.
I'm pretty
mean,
sure they
if
say George.
if they're saying
Yeah.
George, I mean, I believe you guys. I'm not.
But
I
then they
just
had the
assumed it
sad
was.
music, and it was just like I just feel like a failure. And it makes me think too, like if you were going into battle, knowing that you're gonna lose, and you're just like buying time, trying to kill as many bad guys as you can. But during that trek to get there, I mean, it must be exhausting. I was emotionally exhausted for these characters, and I'm just like, people have really done that, where they're like, we're losing this war. Now we're just, waiting our time,
Just
killing
doing our
people.
best.
I mean,
Hold
the
on one
ending to
second.
this
Andrew,
game
can
is a
you
top
minimize
5
that?
ending.
Sure.
For me. Like of all the video games I've played, it's a top 5 ending for me.
Really?
You know why? I mean, the game is a game about bravery, and the ending reminded me so much of Saving Private Ryan. You know, where it's just like you're being overwhelmed and you're just taking out guys. But it didn't like all you were trying to do was get to that end goal, which leads into the first film. And it gave me Saving Private Ryan vibes of just more and more are coming. And you're playing it and you're thinking, how far can I make this? Like I can get through this. I can do it. I'll never forget it. I thought that was an outstanding ending. I loved that to the game. playing this game back now reminded me of something more recent, though. The kind of core, like leading into the first Halo game, this reminded me a lot of Star Wars Rogue One, the movie,
Yeah.
where the whole premise of that movie is them trying to get something to get it onto a ship that leads into the very first Star Wars film. And to me, it reminded me when I'm playing Halo Reach again, where I'm like, man, this reminds me of Star Wars. And I don't know. I kind of love that it just directly there is no hangover between the two. It is, this ends directly into the first Halo game. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just nostalgia that hit me a little bit when I was playing this, but
Once again, Aaron, sucker to nostalgia.
why are we picking games that came out in 2010? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with this?
Well, I also want to point out too, with like the most disappointing, well, not disappointing, but I feel like one of the saddest moments was someone sacrifices themselves and they realize it was all for nothing.
It's bravery.
Kind of
No, it
thing.
wasn't for
But
nothing.
no, but then
It
they
was for
realize
bravery.
there's way more ahead than they thought. Like they thought that was the worst, and then it's 7 times that. And then the guy said, I mean, we should be so lucky to think that we're saving the world when we die. He did not save them. He thought that's what he sacrificed. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have sacrificed himself. I'm just saying when you saw those other ships, you're like, bro, that was just that was heartbreaking. And so for me,
Because
it's like
of-
you see all that sacrifice, and
But it leads to Master Chief. It leads to the guy actually saving everybody. So their sacrifice and their commitment to the mission is what results in all the rest of the Halos.
it
So,
doesn't make it any less depressing. I mean, like he
sure. You're
That-
supposed
but
to
that's
love
what
these
I
guys.
mean. Yeah, that it was depressing, especially when you see those other ships and you're just like, I wanted to see him there till the end. That was the funniest sneeze.
Yeah, that was a
It
very
sounded like you
strange
clapped.
sneeze. Yeah.
Try to hold it.
But I will say that it is great that this game actually gave me emotion, where I was just like, oh, that's a bummer, or like, not that guy. And like seeing them like carry people and stuff, I was just, and I don't like feelings, but I'm not putting it against the game, but I don't like feelings.
And that's a challenge too, the emotional tie-in, because you don't see their faces. So, well,
do,
I guess you do a
every once in a
little
while.
bit.
Yeah.
But most of the game you're looking at just a helmet. So, even and I think almost all the scenes where they're getting killed, maybe with the exception of one where you actually see his face when he's piloting the ship. But outside of that, like, I think that's a challenging thing to do when you're not really seeing expression for a lot of them that are dying, or those that are being sad because.
But I mean,
somebody's dying.
that's because one of the most iconic deaths is Cats, because it's so
Yeah.
sudden, and that's the one that,
Yes.
like, I've seen that meme so many times of just like, oh, because it just happens.
I even thinking about this era of Xbox though, of not only was this like, yeah, it was an emotional game, but then even thinking about Gears of War was coming out at this time too, and Gears of War was also very emotional, and it did a really good job of its storytelling. It was such a core piece of it, and I feel like we've lost this. Like, I feel like this
Yeah.
era just doesn't really exist anymore. I think you still get great storytelling, but great storytelling with kind of just dudes being dudes, because outside of Cat, like, there aren't a lot of female characters in Halo either. So I just feel like this
Well,
era is gone.
It's that, and it's I think the biggest storytelling games now, they're either like ARPGs or they're just like some like JRPG, RPG in some capacity. There's
I
not
feel
a
like
lot
indie
of
games are what's
no, I get that, but that for sure. But like, you just don't see a lot of. Again, like I was saying, like I think Halo was the first, and I know like the Call of Duty games have one, and actually this Call of Duty game we talked about it has a very good story, but I just don't think that there's so many games, especially at least in the first person genre, that really go heavy in it, like on the importance of the story. And at this point, Halo's so huge too of a story. But like, I think that's part of what makes it the core for Halo.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what more to add to the story. To me, this story was it's good. I like these characters because this is the other thing too that's very surprising. Because as you've been playing these games, you've been playing as Master Chief, who really at this point had no personality. It very much was like little banter between him and Cortana. So that's why it was kind of a big departure. Of you now have these 6 Spartans, you see their face. It is a lot more emotion attached to it. But like I said, for me, I understand where you're coming from, Aaron, of like feeling the bravery. I get that. But it's just a lot of the story beats. I was just kind of like, I know what's gonna happen.
Well, could you, or maybe Andrew, do you remember this? Because I remember you read the Halo books.
Yep.
Is Reach really referenced in the first 3 Halo games?
Yes.
Or was that a book first?
No. It was referenced in the games. Not
I can't recall.
so it's always very heavy snippets. Literally in Halo 1, you hear soldiers just like the NPCs say like, "Oh, this is for Reach." Like they'll say these random little snippets.
Yeah.
Once you play 2 and 3, they talk a little bit more about like, "Oh, we lost a lot of Armada on Reach," and because literally Halo 1 starts with you saying you're the last Spartan. The planet just fell where the Spartans are usually at, and you're the last one. So it did always reference it, but it never was super heavy until a little bit later on. So that's why, like this game, as I said at the beginning of this game, if you don't know what's going on, you don't know what Reach is. So I was trying to explain to Liz, I'm like, do you know Reach? Do you understand the significance? And which did you, Liz? I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Your answer. Okay. So obviously it did enough because Liz has now played Halo 1, 2, and Infinite. So she obviously has played a little of these games.
Yeah, I just couldn't, which again, props to these guys for having a story created that you wouldn't actually even show until 3 games later, which I think is kind of impressive. So Reach is mentioned in the first one. I just didn't recall that. I know obviously you're the last Spartan there, but clearly they had a place and a story
Yeah.
already thought out before they even were going to make a game on this. That was something that was going to come obviously after Halo 3. So kudos to them for kind of thinking in advance.
Yeah.
To do
So that was going to be my question is like, and is this like confirmed for sure? Like they actually knew, how far in advance had they planned this story out? Have they ever said, or do they really know?
I
I
think
get
the
where you're coming
significant
from. I think it would make sense. I'm just curious though, like, because not me personally, but if like someone who has story writing capacity and like that's what they specialize in, you have 4 games worth of content, putting together a prequel I don't want to say shouldn't be too hard. Obviously a lot of prequels fall flat on their face. It's just like there's content there, I guess, and the quality of it's the quality of it.
Well, they mostly had a main writer, which was Joseph Staten.
Okay, so he more or less had an idea in his head of
Yeah.
at the very least.
Which was why it was big. He eventually joined halfway through on Halo Infinite, because when Halo Infinite first was like revealed and was kind of put on hold for like 2-3 more years, that's when Joseph Staten went in, and that's when people were like, "Oh, like the OG guy's here, he's gonna fix things a little bit better." But I mean, most of the books were wrote by Eric Nyland, but it was also I think still co-wrote by Joseph Staten. But yeah, he was most of the main story guy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why this game actually have a cohesive story, because it's mostly been one like same handful of writers.
I also wanted to double check with you, make sure I understand this right. So you told me that the voice of Cortana is the voice Cortana is the voice of
I like the accent. Cortana.
Well, she said katana.
Oh, I said
Katana.
You said katana first.
Katana.
from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
She heard the
that's
voice.
Katara. Close. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I'm just getting everything wrong. I don't know. So she is the voice of what you call a necessary evil. I just call her evil because she is. But that's the voice of her. I
Yeah,
feel like that ruined. Like I'm glad that I played this one after the other ones because she ruins the voice of Cortana for me.
Well,
Like
it's supposed.
knowing her backstory and stuff, I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah, you're talking about Dr. Halsey. She's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scientist who created the Spartans.
Who kidnapped
Children
babies
and
and then
trained them.
tortured them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I listen to Cortana and I'm just like, oh, I just want to slap her.
See, Liz said she was going to read the Halo books because I have First Strike, the Flood, and the Fall of Reach, and then I have Ghost of Onyx and Harvest. So Liz said she would actually start reading these books.
Well,
so.
I have to finish Dune first, and then I might read more of the Dune books. I'm on the first one, and then maybe go to Halo.
The Halo books are pretty quick. I am not a reader, and I read them in like 2 days.
Yeah, I kind of remember them not being like too hefty.
Yeah, I think you would easily read in a day or two. But
Yeah, that's fair. I just have to ask a quick question. What did you correct, Liz, about the name of the Mortal Kombat character? What did you say it was?
was it Katara?
You said it is Katara, and that
Yeah.
Liz was wrong. No, it's Katana. It's
Ah,
definitely
Yeah,
Yes!
Liz.
it's Katana.
So I just want to make sure that you
In
that
your
you,
face.
you took a pause to try to correct Liz. And
That
you
was
were
that was a
100% wrong.
useful thing to look up. That was actually good.
Yeah, and you
And-
know what? I played Mortal Kombat a ton as a kid and also as an adult, and I know a thing or two.
You embarrassed
this
me
is
on the podcast, Liz. Good
This
job.
is the thing. Whenever I say something, Andrew's just like, "No, that's not right." And can I
She
tell
accepts it.
you that 99% of the time that he makes the decision to say, "No, you're wrong," he is wrong. 99% of the time, and he does it
I believe it.
every day. And I just
Great
want to throw
mango.
that out there because I just
Well, I've been drinking.
all the time you're like, no, that person wasn't in that movie, and then I'm like, here, play the movie, and he's in there. You just
Well-
love to say no.
You got your opportunity. You got to booyah him right here. and now this is for everyone to hear for the
Nope,
rest of
I
time.
edit this podcast. I'm deleting that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well,
That's the great
someone's
thing, I could
listening
delete
out
all this.
there, and they're gonna hear, who is Katara? Why did he say that with such confidence?
But anyway, let's get to the gameplay. So as I said, even for the gameplay, I felt like to me this was a little bit short. It's still very much the Halo. You know, you carry 2 guns. Left, you have your grenades with quick left trigger. But when it comes to this gameplay, to me, I found the AI to be a bit more annoying in this one. Usually in the other Halos, the AI was more like taking cover, falling back, regrouping. And this one, I just felt like the AI, all they did was dodge all the time. They're just
Yeah.
constantly sidestepping back and forth, which is just annoying. To me, it wasn't like, oh, like this AI is smart. It's like, no, they're just bobbing and weaving everywhere and just throwing stuff. And I'm like, so to me, I
Right.
felt like the AI was a step back in this. And the other thing I hate, I do not like the equipment. Because I even remember in the multiplayer, this is the first Halo you had a loadout. You got to pick
Yeah.
what equipment you start with. I don't like it. I don't like the equipment. I think the armor lock, the bubble shield, all that stuff. Because in the third one, Halo 3, they had a well, this one is called armor abilities, but Halo 3 is called equipment. And I didn't really care for the equipment in that one either. But this time it was just evolved into these armor abilities. So seeing it in the single player, I'm just like, this is kind of annoying. But I forgot about some of the fun levels in Halo Reach. The random time you're actually flying a ship and doing space combat. The Bullfrog area where you have jump backs and you're with a bunch of ODSTs kind of clearing this rubble. Those were kind of fun economic moments. But overall, to me, the story, well, when it came to the gameplay, also too, there's a lot of, they added a lot of Halo or Covenant weapons in this game, and all of them suck. Instead of the plasma rifle, it's like the storm rifle, which isn't very good. They have this lock-on grenade launcher with the Hydra, I think it was called. That one's okay, but you only see it like twice.
I agree with your points, but I also just want to add that I felt like this was the Halo game that I struggled the most with ammo. I felt I had to constantly switch my gun, and whenever on the ground there was always just like one type of enemy weapon. I'd go over like 5, and it was all the same crappy one that I didn't like. So I definitely felt like the guns and ammo were worse in this game. And then going back to like the when you can do the shield or the jetpack and
All the
stuff,
abilities, yeah.
I kept accidentally getting rid of my sprint, and it drove me nuts because I depended on that. I had to run away quite a bit. I actually, it's not a screenshot when it's a video. I recorded a lot of my fails.
I know. I was going to make a compilation of Liz's fails. They're pretty funny. She saved them, so don't get mad at me.
No, one of them you said, you're like, oh, you're not going to save that one, and then you held down the thing. I saw you do it. Did you hold down the ones for when I was a team player and doing a great job? No.
Probably
No,
not.
but
Ever.
I was really bad. I'm the worst teammate for games like this. But yeah, so we took a lot of videos of me doing terrible.
I kind of want to take a shot at Andrew,
Oh,
just because
boy.
I
Keep him
always
rolling.
say
Yes.
Keep
I always say he
rolling.
gets hung up on weird things. Getting hung up on the AI in this game, the AI for one is, who cares? You're a super soldier.
Well, it's the gameplay. Yes, you
And the
care about
AI's
the
never
AI.
been good in these. They've never
Yes, they
been good in
have.
these.
Halo 1 was very iconic with it.
Oh,
if you killed the elite, the grunts would fall back to either regroup with another elite or enough of them would gather together in order to fight you.
for its
No.
time, I don't know how this is that much different. I don't think this is that much different. But you're also missing one of the most important gameplay elements that I don't know if existed. I don't think it's existed in any other Halo, not that I can remember. And that's that you can drive a forklift.
Yeah.
And that
No, this is
forklift
new. That's new
didn't.
in this one.
is awesome.
Is it though?
Yeah, because then I just want to see how far I can get in the forklift. 'Cause once I see a forklift and I can drive that forklift, then I'm like, well, how far can I take this thing? Can I take it to the end of the level? I'm sure somebody's done this. But love that element of it. But I'm with you. I'm with you, Liz. Obviously, I don't think anybody liked the armor powers or whatever they were referenced in this game.
Yeah.
But especially where how gaming has gone, going back to 2010 is really difficult. It's really
Yeah.
difficult. I hit grenade all of the time when I'm trying to look down a scope. I'm always
Yes!
pushing in the sprint button because every video game for the past 8 years has had those. And it's
10,000%. Like
Yeah.
the left trigger button and then also right bumper.
Yeah.
I messed up. Reloading. I was like, Andrew, I'm reloading, and he's like, that's not the reload button. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Every other game it's a reload button. Andrew, what is going on with you?
I'm trying to put up Liz's fails.
I know, but you're going to like 50 different things. I'm hearing a D-do. It's so hard to concentrate when they're talking.
you
when I have
don't-
50
Gosh,
screens
you-
and noises coming up. This is a new thing this year. Every time we've recorded this year, it's like you can't.
I'm trying to
focus.
give you something to look for
You were
viewers to look
under
at.
other tabs. You were under other tabs, and then like things were going off.
You're just too
Here's-
fixated on these things. You just need to move on.
Fine.
You
No,
could
you
so-
can do it.
No,
It's
no.
No, the
distracting.
but and maybe it's a 2010 thing, I guess, is what it comes down to. But yeah, the button layout was driving me nuts. The fact that, you guys have already said, but like having the sprint, but not always having the sprint. But then remembering that when I did have it anyways, I had to hit X to use it. Like the X isn't a sprint button. It's the same as like A is a jump button. And it is in this game, thankfully.
I love
but-
jumping.
Like the Y to reload, that's all right. I'm not totally against that one, but all of the button layout just it's a mess, and it doesn't feel comfortable for me. And I think that's part of where I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with the game. I'm just like, I don't ever
we
feel
do have
comfortable
the
playing
ability
this.
to switch the controller.
And
layout.
and
Yes.
this is and I was gonna say,
None
this
of
is
us did.
probably a weird thing
None
to
of us
do.
did though.
I meant to actually point out that like I probably should have tried this and didn't, but then then it got brought up and I was like, well, now I'm in. I'm just
Well,
jumping in. I
let me
hate it.
explain.
Hated
you
it.
didn't hold on one second, Andrew. You didn't tell me that you could switch the controls. You had zero sympathy for me when I kept throwing grenades. and
You've
you
been doing
were
this
just like, "It's
podcast
not
enough.
that
You know
bad."
about options.
I
What?
I'm gonna agree with you, Andrew, but I've also like you're married to Liz, so Liz.
Okay, touche.
I accept
Did
your
you
fault.
really think that she was gonna look at the options? This is like still why we and Liz will openly call herself the noob on the podcast, because despite years of playing, she just doesn't. And I'm not trying to insult you, Liz, by the way. I don't like
Oh, boy,
looking at
I'd like to
options
see
just
you
aren't
actually try to insult her.
like options and things like aren't natural instinct for her to like look at and all of that. So yes, you do still have to tell
Wait
her.
till you need help, Andrew.
Let
I'm
me-
gonna be
Because
like,
she's
"You
a
know what?
woman? Is that what you're implying, Keith?
No, but
Whoa,
because
Keith.
no, because it has
You
nothing to do with that.
monster.
It has everything to do with who she is as a person.
A woman?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, all right. Let
Disgusting.
me explain. Okay, I didn't think Liz you would get so hung up on it. So these controls are essentially universal controls because we all played on Master Chief Collection. I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Master Chief Collection is all of the Halos. So they created essentially a universal control. So if you switch to any of the Halos, you would have a general idea what the controls are. And so this is not the original controls. Right bumper was not the original reload in this game. It was originally X, but it was the 360 controller. And then originally, obviously, Halo 1 was the OG Xbox, which had the black and white button. So this was just their way of creating a universal control that kind of semi-spaned all the games.
But why would they pick that?
But it's been like that in all the other Halos we've played, Liz.
No, you're saying it was originally X. I'm
Yes.
not saying like when they were like, "Hey, let's change this so that it's all universal." I'm like,
Because the X button drastically changed with these armor abilities and then gadget pickups and Halo 3, 4, and then Reach. They all had a different ability. But I think X and Halo 1 and 2, I think was either your flashlight or switching grenades.
I remember that.
But that is the explanation. But I'm not fully against you guys. I do agree. It is a bit annoying at first. But yes, you do have the options to change the controls. You can change it to original control settings.
That's
I
fair.
wanted to point out too that Andrew noticed that my not love for the grunts, but I had sympathy for the grunts
Yep.
the first time we played. And this time around, I was just like, nope, I'm gonna kill all of you. And then I was
Sympathy.
so impressed I got headshots. I was so impressed.
Well,
I couldn't believe it.
so Liz is referencing the awesome skull, the modifier you can do, the grunt birthday party.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember I put it on in
Classic.
Halo 1, and Liz felt terrible. She's like, why are children cheering that I'm shooting these guys in the head? I feel so bad for them. Because, of course, in the earlier Halos, they're mostly sad of like, run away, and they say kind of pitiful things. So Liz felt bad for them. And this one, she was like, yeah, the children are cheering for me. Yeah.
I mean, they
She
blew me up
changed on
too
this
many
one.
times.
Yeah, she got a triple headshot. She was like, did you see that? She clipped that. That's one of your clips I was going to put up until you yelled at me.
Sorry.
So this is sort of one of my gripes of Halo in general. Is like we're how many games in now, and there's been what, maybe 10 new enemies, at least on like a recurring basis. Like there's kind of always like one new big enemy here and there, but
that's why I'd argue this game is so good, because it has these core enemies, and I don't
Right.
get sick of fighting them.
There's certain
No, but
ones
I-
that you see and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
like the guy with the sword.
and I guess and I know there's like different variations of the elite to their armor and all of that too, but like I feel like that's what changes. And I get where you're coming from, but I don't know. I guess if I just play this many years of a different game, at least when it comes to like something sci-fi, like Call of Duty, sure, I'm not looking for, people with 4 arms to come running out because it's Call of Duty. It's not
The
supposed to be like
four-armed
that.
terrorists.
But this is a sci-fi game, and they did introduce the Swarm at one point, but
With the
outside of
Flood.
that, the Flood, sorry, but there's never been like new alien races that have been introduced.
There
Really,
has. It comes out later, but
Yeah.
you're actually bringing up a good point though, because for as long as Halo had been around, I don't remember ever really hating the enemy variety. Like I
No.
always felt completely fine with the setup. That never seemed to be a big issue for me. I do think Halo in general has fumbled the Flood. I think it's crazy that the Flood really are prominent in the first one and just that's it.
Well, because
Um,
technically you do fully kill them in the third one.
I-
So if anything,
I-
I'm kind of glad that they're not backtracking like, oh, you didn't actually kill them.
I get that, but they're iconic.
Yeah, they
Like
are.
that shows up more than halfway through the first game as suddenly you're introduced to this new enemy type. And then what are you fighting in 5? You're fighting the Forerunners, right?
The Forerunners, yeah.
So that's their new enemy type, was the Forerunners, which are fine.
No,
not
they
bad.
suck. They're not fun to
They're-
play.
They're just
They're
not, they're not
robots that are-
memorable.
Yeah.
I think they nailed it with the Covenant and they nailed it with the Flood. I think that was just such a good combo that I just never really thought much of it. And then you get to the Forerunner, but I mean, they're really just in that game, and yeah, they're forgettable. You kind of
No, they're in all the. They're in Halo 4 and 5.
I
don't
never
remember these ones.
They
What is it?
weren't in Infinite.
I don't.
No, they were a little bit
remember. I don't remember playing 4. I think I don't know if I did. If I did, I do not remember anything in it.
4 was the better story, but worse multiplayer. 5 was the one with the worst story. Everyone roasts 5 to how bad it is with the campaign story.
Oh, it's the
Do you remember how
Prometheans.
good the
is what it
promo was
is.
for 5? Do you?
For 5? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, with the podcast.
No, it was like you were going rogue. The whole story was
Yes.
about,
Did you listen to the
You-
podcast?
huh?
There was a podcast about it.
What do you mean?
It was called like Unravel the Truth or something like that. But it literally was a prequel to Halo 5 talking about how these things are happening and Master Chief is kind of looking like a villain. But then everyone was like, you're getting rid of Master Chief, and nobody liked it. And that's why Halo 5 is regarded as the worst story ever.
Well, the story wasn't as good as the promos. The promos seemed interesting.
Yeah.
And then you got to the story and it was like half done. Like it
Yeah.
it really didn't it did not match what they were promoting, because what they were promoting was cool. Like I kind of liked that idea, and it was kind of a cool way to kind of introduce new Spartans. But then when you played it, the story was totally different. And it was this
Yeah.
weird Cortana story, and it was just it was bad. That's why Halo Reach really is probably the last great Halo.
Yeah.
Everyone after it has, at least you might have elements that you like about it. Like there's elements I liked about Infinite. I didn't hate Infinite, but it's definitely lacking in story. And it's just not this. It's not the same.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up at one point in this discussion of this game. I know we said a little bit, I think, in one of our side quest episodes, but there's heavy rumor that Halo is now coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
And there's also heavy rumor. So 343 Studios is now been closed down, quote unquote. It got renamed. They're now called Halo Studios, and they've unveiled some cinematics. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It looks like, Aaron, you have, but they've showed Halo now in Unreal Engine, which is also very new because Halo has always been done on Slipspace Engine. I know, Liz, I'm speaking gibberish to you. Just follow
Oh yeah,
along.
over my head. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you guys though. So some people are curious: is the Halo's just getting remastered in Unreal Engine, or is it going to get rebooted? What do you guys think of the future of Halo?
I mean, I don't understand the hatred for games going over to PlayStation or vice versa. Any of that. It doesn't make sense to me. So if this were to go to PlayStation, cool. Do it. Good luck trying to play it, I guess, because your online network will probably be down. But outside of that, like, got him. But no, seriously, like, I don't care. None of that bothers me. So, like, I don't know. This isn't my protected brainchild. I didn't invent Halo. If they want to bring it to other platforms, let them do it. That's them. I don't know. Then your next question, I guess. Cool. I think I could see them doing a remaster of it, because why not? Just keep. Halo's one of those games that they could just keep remastering every time there's good enough technology, and people will be like, "Yep, I'm gonna play that." Just, whether they might not be able to do it with all of them, but pretty much like the original Halo, they could pretty much always do that, and I feel like people would just keep playing it.
What about a reboot? Would you be interested in a reboot?
When you say reboot, I guess
Like starting the story over, like they'd probably change some things with the story.
So like still Master Chief, but you get to see his butt more.
Maybe.
Ooh.
He's bringing up the TV show.
Yeah, how have we
I
not talked about the show?
I know we're like 45 minutes in.
Ah.
Had to do it, but like I guess like I don't know. It wouldn't bother me at all. I don't know if it would excite me more either. I think it would just be like okay, another Halo. I'll probably play a little bit of it at some point, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as Halo going to other platforms, I have no problem with this for a few reasons. And again, everybody can kind of have their own thoughts on this. To me, the better value is still to have an Xbox and to play Game Pass. I like getting the games on day one. I like the fact that I just play one flat rate and they're available there day one. I like that. So I still wouldn't go to PlayStation because I don't have that access. So to me, that's what matters the most. And if selling these games at full price to another platform, which will then just make sure that more of these games get made in the future, I'm all for it. So I have no issues with it. I kind of like that they seem to be kind of timed. Who knows if that's always going to be the case, but we got to play through Indiana Jones. Eventually, PlayStation, I think, is going to get that in April.
It's
I think,
spring. They just
in the
said spring. Yeah.
But hey, you know what? It's a great game. And if they're going to go pay $60 to go play that game, then by all means, you'll just support that studio for the future. And we've already gotten to play it. So what do I care? What do I with Halo moving forward? What I think will happen, judging by the brief snippet that they gave when they went to Halo Studios, it looks like the Unreal Engine 5 stuff is future. They showed a new planet. They showed new visuals. My guess is that moving forward, Unreal Engine 5 will just be what the new Halos are on. I can't imagine them going back
Yeah.
and redoing what they've already redone, because the Master Chief Collection is a remaster.
Well, it's
So
just a remaster, but what about a reboot?
I
He's
can't
starting the story over.
imagine them going back and doing a full reboot at this point. I can't
Well, there
imagine
was-
people would be happy with that.
But if,
At
if
least
you're
the
bringing
Master
in
Chief's
the
the,
whole,
the last Spartan there. Like, who else are they going to go with?
No,
Oh, just kidding. There
reboot
was
would be
also
just-
one.
You would make Halo 1 all over again.
yeah. But I mean, like it makes sense with if you're putting PlayStation people in now, they obviously haven't been playing these Halo games.
Yeah, but I think I could see Master Chief Collection just going straight.
Yeah, that would be
To
what would
PlayStation
make
as
sense
well.
to me. Especially at this point, like they're not going to individually drop the different Halos at this point. They're just going to give Master Chief Collection and then potentially any future ones. I guess I would say for the future, as far as any future games, like Aaron was saying, like is Master Chief out at this point? It wouldn't be
Legacy.
Master Chief.
They
It would be
tried
like
to get
a-
rid of them in Halo 5, and people
It
were
would-
not happy. So
And I guess that's the thing is like it's I know people will be mad, but at this point, like at some point you gotta just go a different direction, right? Or I don't know, maybe you don't, because Doom is always Doom guy.
yeah,
There's-
Doomslayer.
so-
yeah.
I feel like just make something else. I mean, for me, if Master Chief isn't a part of it, I mean, it's not really Halo to me. Like I felt like Halo Reach, that's kind of how I felt, where it's like I get that it's the prequel and he's in that universe and stuff, but I mean, Master Chief makes Halo, so and I
Well said, Liz.
ODST was another one that wasn't Master Chief too, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I think you could. I don't. And this is where I kind of have like an issue with storytelling, and mostly the fans of these, because you could move on from Master Chief. You've told stories. You've told an ODST story. You've made Halo War games, and there is more to the universe you can do there that does not necessarily have to have Master Chief. I think the fans, probably you're right, Andrew, would just be pissed off about it and revolt. But I think it's possible. I think Reach still feels like Halo to me. It doesn't not feel like Halo.
True.
And if I'm being frankly honest here, Master Chief is probably one of the most boring protagonists we've had in a video game. In fact, the only reason he's relatively interesting is mostly because of Cortana.
Yeah.
Cor-
Which
Cor-
that's the one they killed. Cortana.
Cortana,
is
yeah.
gone.
Cortana playing off of Master Chief, because Master Chief is kind of a blank slate of zero emotion. He is pure, I'm here for a job, I'm here for a mission, where Cortana is usually the emotional draw to him. She's the one that's prodding and bringing out questions. And so to me, actually, Master Chief is, I mean, he's Master Chief, obviously, he's iconic. But as far as it goes for emotional storytelling, he's probably the least interesting of everybody.
But you got to
Including
learn.
the Arbiter. The Arbiter was more interesting
Yeah.
in Halo 2 than Master Chief was.
I
Like,
agree
he
with
actually had a
that.
compelling and interesting story.
Well, because he was like screwed over, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, his story was great with the Covenant.
But I also think whenever there's a reboot or whether it's games or TV, they try to branch off and do new characters. 99% of the time, it sucks.
Yes.
And so for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it can go forward with other characters, getting rid of Master Chief, but they're probably going to do a terrible job. And it's nothing to do with the universe. It's just because I feel like history has shown that it's always like a money grab. They never do a good job. And so I would be very wary of of a new game, especially
I-
without Master Chief. And it might be good, but look at the Halo TV series. It's gonna
Thank
be
you,
just
Liz.
like that. They're just
Yeah,
gonna. It's
the-
not gonna be the same. It's not gonna have the same feel. It's gonna be. It's gonna be different. And if it's gonna be different, just make something else.
They're
See, I
just
really
gonna
want to
add in
reboot
all the
Bungie
red
and
versus
watch
blue
the TV show.
characters.
Fast.
And they're just gonna add in like actual Donut and Sarge and Caboose in the
So
actual
you did
Halo
get the
series.
names.
Which- Yeah, I forgot
It-
to ask you,
it-
Keith, did you get the names?
It took me a minute. It was when you put Donut for me that I was like, oh, that's what it was. I didn't catch on to the Sarge and Caboose.
I
Uh,
also want to point out real quick that Aaron, because I used to listen to your podcast. I feel like Aaron and I have very different views on movies, but also like storytelling in general with stuff like that. Because I feel like I always
Yeah.
no,
Liz
I
got mad at you
I
during your
didn't
podcast
say
there.
I did not say who was right and who was wrong. I'm just saying I would listen to it and you'd have a take on a movie and I'd be like, no, he didn't. Or I'd be like, yeah, like that movie's fantastic. Or like, oh, I
Game night.
remember
That's
well, Andrew agrees with you with like Muppet Christmas. It's like, no, Scrooge is the best one. I just like so I also think it's interesting. I feel like when on the podcast so with games, I feel like we agree a lot on whether
Well-
it's a game or a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously go down many different paths when it comes to movies, but again, you do make a good point though, and that in most cases when they do this reboot, the reboot just sucks. And everything right now, if we're looking at the track record, 343 has not been good with Halo. They just haven't. Since Bungie left and 343 has been in charge,
Their best
It's
was
been-
Infinite.
it's been dicey at best.
Yeah.
So now with this complete, obviously they got rid of Bonnie.
Yeah.
She was in charge of 343, and yeah, she should have been gone a long time ago. Honestly, she should have been gone before Infinite, but I think lying about all the features coming to Infinite that just never showed up was just she
Yeah.
had to go. So with Bonnie gone, the question is obviously they rebrand because it was smart. Yeah, you have to get away from 343. So now they're Halo Studios, but it's still a huge question mark on what these guys are capable of. Because
Yeah.
all we know at this point is Unreal Engine 5. That's
Yeah.
all we really know. But we have nothing to go off of on story wise. Where
Yeah.
it's left in Infinite is like, well, what else are you gonna do? What else can you honestly do at this point? This is where I'm kind of with you, where like I could see a reboot making sense and just saying, you know what? Halo Studios is going to be a fresh start. We're going to restart the series and we're going to take off of the lore that we've enjoyed. We're still going to include all of that stuff, but we're going to have a trajectory on where we want to go with this thing kind of built into it. So there is a part where you're like, okay, but do I trust these guys? I don't know. I have no clue. This is a blank slate now because this will technically be the third studio to man the Halo series. So I don't know.
But how many studios have taken over Call of Duty over the years? And maybe it's because it's not as cohesive that it doesn't matter as much. But
It is now. Now,
true. Well, that's
the last few
it's
years
because
they've
of
got-
it.
yeah, they
They've
have like a
shrunk it down.
Call of Duty world, and the characters all kind of relate, and the games are all kind of connected to different. So it's stupid. But
It's mostly
and
not good.
it's because there's a different studio for every game. Where this one should work in theory because Halo Studios is in charge of all Halo games. So in theory, you should be able to create a cohesive story that would run through all of these games and should work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it hasn't happened at this point.
So my take, real quick, since we're obviously kind of running out of time, I'm a little upset that it's going to PlayStation. If it is, I guess it's not 100% confirmed. Just because it's the old curmudgeon in me. Halo was always Xbox. Master Chief was always the mascot of Xbox. So that part of me is kind of like, this sucks. I don't like it. But this is clearly an old person problem. Kids these days don't care. Kids these days are playing Fortnite. They don't care where it's at. They're playing Minecraft. They don't care where it's at. It could be on mobile. It could be on anything. They don't care. Like this whole console war thing is definitely an older generation thing. And I'm part of it. And that's why the old part of me
And
is
that's
like,
why
this
I'm
sucks.
okay with it.
But the other part of me is with you guys where I'm like, hey, if they're funding the studio, great. I don't care. More people to play with online, whatever. But it is just growing up. This was Xbox, was Halo, which that part of me just kind of makes me sad. But I really hope they don't do a reboot because I agree with you, Liz. Anytime there's like a reboot, this studio just has not been doing well. And Joseph Staten left Halo, and I think he went to like a Netflix game or something like that, which I think already got closed down. So they already have a new studio. Like they don't have writers. They don't have good writers, or at least writers that have proved
We
themselves.
don't know that. We're
Yes,
speculating.
yeah, speculation. But I agree with you. I'm glad they got rid of Bonnie. Well, she retired, but because literally, as far as the story's gone, as soon as 343 is taken over with any of the media, not even just this Halo TV show, but they've done multiple TV shows, haven't been good. They had one TV show that was decent, and that was not the Pillar of Autumn. It was named after a ship. I'm trying to blank on it. But it was only like it was a miniseries, like 3 or 4 episodes. That one was decent. Not great, but decent. So that's why I'm like, I hope they don't do a reboot. I think it will be moving forward. Halo Infinite was supposed to be kind of a soft reboot. It was supposed to be like, oh, yes, you are playing Master Chief, but it's this whole new story of you going against the Banished, not the Covenant. So it's still kind of in the universe, but it already sounds like that got canned because there's supposed to be story DLC, and that's all been canned. So I feel like there might be another reboot. And that's why it wouldn't surprise me if they tried starting over again. I just hope they don't. But yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
will say, oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Something's got to happen.
Yeah.
I think everything. I mean, Infinite fell flat. It was. It still blows my mind how good that multiplayer was when it launched.
Yeah.
And the complete lack of support they had for it. It was one of those games that like, it was super fun, but there was about enough fun for like a week.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're like, well, wait, what's next? And there was just nothing. And that game didn't launch with split screen co-op. Heck, it didn't launch with co-op at all.
Yep.
That came later. And I think it lost its audience so quick. I don't think they could have possibly stuck with that thing any longer.
Yeah. Which everyone kept saying it was the Slip Space engine, but to me, it was the story. The story was good, but it wasn't great.
No, it didn't push anything. It wasn't iconic. It didn't push anything forward. But just kind of like the last thing there, Andrew, you had kind of mentioned it going to PlayStation. Who's the guy over at IGN, the Xbox guy? Not Destin.
Ryan McCaffrey.
Ryan McCaffrey. He posted on X today, and I think it's kind of funny. He said in 2025, it's something like, it'd be really funny if Xbox launched more games on PlayStation than Sony launched on PlayStation.
I mean, it's going to happen.
That's looking at the map. That could be a reality that PlayStation studios are going to launch less games on PlayStation.
Is just a console company. They're not a game development company. That's what I've been told. So why would they launch more games on Sony than Sony does?
I mean, now
I've been told they're not a game development company. They're just a console maker.
Well, they can say that to Forza Horizon 5, which they'll be getting here very soon.
Gosh, I can't wait for a new Forza Horizon.
I know.
But anyway, back to Halo Reach. We'll go real quick over these. Graphics. So this game came out in 2010. I gotta say, these graphics hold up very well.
Yeah,
This game,
not bad.
as far as I saw, was not touched
immediately
up.
thought of Keith with the teeth, though.
Really?
Yeah.
What teeth do you see?
Was it the teeth?
I personally didn't catch any. I know there is a couple scenes where they don't have their helmets on, but I didn't notice it.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. I noticed the
But I
water.
appreciate that, Liz, because the teeth will get you every time.
Yep. Well, I actually liked the water in one of the scenes.
Yeah.
And I was thinking for 2010, I thought it was really good. I didn't check out the water the rest of the game, but it was like murky, and I also like when you actually went through bushes, the leaves moved and stuff, and the emus jumping out at you or whatever they are.
I punched a couple.
I did too. I immediately punched one.
But yeah, I gotta say the graphics overall are very good. Like,
Yeah, I actually ended up
The vistas were-
clouding the game because I didn't feel like finding space to download all of the Master Chief collection, so I just ended up clouding it. And there was like a weird, and it was purely because of the playing it on cloud. Like it would just randomly do this like overscan of the screen from time to time, and that was kind of annoying because it would like take a second to like catch back up and then go back to a decent resolution. And I think even when it's running perfectly, it doesn't run on perfect resolution anyways. But yeah, but that said, like there was nothing about it that I like was trying to justify that, like aside from that overscan thing, there was nothing that I'm like, oh, it's because I'm running this on cloud, that's why that looks as bad as it does. So I think that's actually pretty impressive feat.
I
But,
do, I do want to take a shot at you though, Andrew. Again.
Andrew, keep them rolling. I'm loving
Well,
this.
at the very beginning, he's like, "Oh, the music was fine." It's Marty O'Donnell. It's the guy that does
Yes,
the
it's still
iconic
the same
music
people.
to all of them.
yes.
So
Okay,
what's the
okay.
problem with it?
Okay, getting into the music. We're getting into this. So
It set the
clearly,
mood.
I have it on Spotify. You can tell this soundtrack is just it's not bad. Okay, I'm saying that it's not bad, but it's definitely to me the weakest of the Halos. It still has some fantastic soundtracks because when you look at Spotify here, 8 million views, 5 million views, but then you get 1 million. Then 3 songs that don't even crack a million, and then a handful that only barely crack a million. So clearly, there's soundtracks in here. So Overture, over 8 million. This is a fantastic song. Oh wait, that's not it.
Wow,
But it
that's
works
inspiring.
very well. It's very iconic, very Halo. But there was a handful of songs, like I said, that don't even crack a million. That I remember playing this, and I'm like, this is just okay at best. Because then you look at the other Halos, and they have millions upon millions of listens.
But I think that has to do with the numbers of gameplay in those
Yeah.
Halos, and that
Yeah.
Halo Reach is not the first reach for Halo, if you will, to play a little pun there.
I think that's the problem. Is you're trying to compare an iconic soundtrack to something later, but it doesn't make it bad. It just means
I didn't say bad.
yeah.
It's
you
like what
kinda-
like
it's
what's
like
Guns
pizza.
N' Roses
Limited
download
beginning.
numbers on like whatever album Welcome to the Jungle's on versus what was the Chinese Democracy one.
Oh my
And,
god.
and I think it's arguable the second was just
That is
completely bad
okay.
anyways,
But that's a bad example. One
I
was
mean, maybe it's just because one's
genuinely
just very
bad.
terrible. But the point still remains. It's like one is like a true classic, and then the other is like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people who are really into Guns N' Roses are gonna probably listen to that. But outside of that, no one's listening to that.
I
Are-
think too, like the people, there are always people who say the original is always best, and they will never listen to the other.
Andrew.
That's Andrew.
And so, but for me, I felt like the soundtrack it really fit the mood. I mean, when something sad happened, they made it real sad with that music, and then they also get you all jazzed up.
Andrew's getting pissed right now.
No,
He's
there was
hearing this,
one.
and he's
Okay,
like,
I can't remember what song it was. During one of the cutscenes, it was playing, and I'm like, this soundtrack is loud, and it's ruining the mood of this cutscene. I'm not, okay. Once again, like I said, it's not bad. It's to me, it's like pizza. Even bad pizza, it's still pizza. It's still good. I'm still gonna eat it. But it's just it to me, it's the weakest of the Halo soundtracks. Well, okay, out of the original Bungie Studio Halos.
See, I don't remember the first Halo soundtrack, but this just sounded like Halo to me. So
Mhm.
I guess I don't really have a good opinion on it.
You don't know the soundtrack? This song.
"Oh, please do not." It is iconic, but so far,
Dude,
you know
that
what?
hair dropped up there.
Because you
so
were
far,
about to do the
so far
chants.
what I've
He said,
gathered
please
here.
do not. Why are you still playing it?
He can't hear it.
Oh! I thought he said that.
He's
'cause
talking about
he
you. No,
could.
he's talking about you.
So far, what I've gathered is the Halo Reach soundtrack is Guns N' Roses and pizza. I think.
Yes. Do you
I
have
think
an
that's-
analogy? What's
think
your
that's what I-
analogy, Aaron?
Oh
You
no,
need
I
to
think
go
that's
with-
perfect. It's Guns N' Roses pizza. That is
No,
what
no,
it
no,
is.
Don't cross
So-
over Guns N' Roses and pizza. They're two different things.
No, that's what Andrew said. It was pizza. You said it was Guns N' Roses. That's
Right, but Guns N' Roses pizza isn't a thing.
oh,
Although they
it's-
probably
yeah.
have a pizza shop open. They've probably opened
I-
one. You get
I
enough
wouldn't
money,
be
you just start
surprised.
doing things.
Wouldn't be
What's
surprised.
going on right now? As far as achievements go,
Yeah,
oh,
because it was a part of the Master Chief Collection. I didn't look up the achievements.
which is fine.
um,
The achievements are kind of weird.
Sometimes
Literally-
they pop up and I didn't do
Yeah.
anything. It's like, oh, you saw like something written or something, and I'm like, no, I
yeah,
did not.
you saw a restaurant menu, and it was like it was a
Yeah.
value menu achievement. It was like, what is this achievement?
I mean, it was nice to get it, but I definitely didn't find anything.
It's so random. There was one, Sergeant Buck, which obviously is in later Halos. He starts speaking. It's like there's an achievement called. That voice sounds familiar. It's like what? It's so random. But yeah, this game's full of random cheats. When you're just playing it, they're just popping. They're all worth like 5 points though, but they're pretty fun. But let's get to our final thoughts here. I guess I'll kick us off here. So, like I said, for me, for Halo Reach, it's my least favorite Bungie Halo. It is still just a ton of fun. Like, obviously, if you're playing through the series, absolutely do not skip it. It is still worth a lot of value. Has great story, great characters. It's just out of the gameplay, audio, and everything, it's just the weakest, but it's still way worth your time. But as I said before earlier, if this is the one Halo you're going to play, I wouldn't recommend this to be the one Halo you play. But yeah, we didn't even get into the multiplayer. This is the game that more defined Firefight, which is still in obviously Master Chief Collection. But I didn't care. This was also my least favorite Halo multiplayer to play as well, because like I said, this is the one that had loadouts. But overall, though, it's still Halo. It's still a lot of fun. Still great storytelling. Still great audio and music. But to me, this is just a solid 90. Keith, why don't you go next? I'll pick.
I thought Liz was going.
Oh, okay. Liz,
I
no,
always
Liz
go
goes last
last.
because she does medical.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
This is like Halos are always a weird one for me to like actually rate, because there's like, do I hate Halo? Am I ever gonna hate a Halo? I don't think so. And I think that's the weird thing too, is like, and this is kind of like what Aaron was saying, like there's this weird thing about Halo fandom, is like someone who's a real fan of Halo, they're like, you can pick apart and be like, I hate Halo 5. I think I could pick up Halo 5 and probably have just as much fun if I picked up Halo 1, 2, 3, any single one of them.
Blasphemy.
Maybe. But that's the thing, is like I think they're all fun, basically, and they all have a sense of fun to them. There's nothing about them that I dislike, but I've never gotten into the series. I am not a Halo fan. So I've never played through the stories in depthly and really learned about what's going on. I know the game and it's fun, and I do like it. And there's really, I think it's, I don't want to say a pioneering game, but I think it really set the tone for where games went and how important first person shooters became in the culture of gaming, and just all of the things that Halo did. There's a lot to be said for it. Where does Halo Reach fall for me? Like I said, I don't know. How do I feel about my time playing it? It felt like Halo. I think overall, yeah, it's solid 87. Just because I don't know what else to rate it, and I think I said it's a game. So
Yeah, I think everybody said it was a game. Listen, like I mentioned earlier, I'm sticking with it. This is the last great Halo game so far. And I've enjoyed Infinite, but this one, as far as it goes for just playing the single player, so not even talking about the multiplayer. I know we really didn't do that. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time doing that, but back in 2010, I probably spent a ludicrous amount of time on the multiplayer there. This is still great. It's still great. It still feels like Halo. Playing it again though did kind of make me feel like, all right, this feels more like an expansion than it does, where it adds some elements, but it's not necessarily groundbreaking anything. It still feels a lot like that kind of classic Halo. But it made me miss the old days. It made me think of how much fun it was to play a game that had a well thought out story. When you get to the end, that connection to Halo 1, all that stuff felt so good.
Yeah.
So here's to just open Halo Studios comes back and brings us back to those good old days, because I think that there's a space for it. I know live services kind of take over the space, but man, it felt good to play this game. I'm gonna give this a 91.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel good with that.
I was gonna give it an 87, but I'm like, I think I liked it at least one more point more than Keith, so I'm gonna give it an 88. Just because I really like Halo, and yeah, I feel like a jerk saying that. I feel like I like it one more than Keith, but I feel like I did like it more than Keith. And I was gonna give an 87 though. Keith, you just came up with the perfect score. That's what happened.
I mean, I'll go to
Um,
86 if you want.
No,
no.
I love how
Um,
arbitrary the number is. Like anybody just flips it to whatever the
Yeah,
heck
I'll
they want.
make mine one lower. It's
They
fine.
don't even care.
We just
but
got a text from Bungie. They said make it higher.
Yeah.
the same reason for the achievements. I didn't do Metacritic because it was the Master Chief Collection, but I mean those numbers were high. People love Halo.
All right, but let's wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please join us in our Discord and our YouTube. Go to our link tree at linktree/GBGB, and you'll find the links to all our things, or go to GamePassGrow.com. Either one works. But yeah, we record every Wednesday around 8:30 EST. So come join us, say hi, or you can go to our YouTube and see our live recordings here. They're kind of a wreck, but they're kind of fun. I've been your hardcore gamer host, Andrew. You can find me next Xbox Live at Firebird01952. But yeah, Aaron, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I'm Aaron, and yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay. Well,
This was a listener, Keith. So make sure you give David Spare a rating.
You can check out Aaron streaming with us, I guess, but also on our Game Pass Grab Bag YouTube page. I was half paying attention to your stream today, and I didn't realize you cut it at 13 minutes, and I kept getting so confused that when I'd look back, it'd be on a different video. And I was like, why does it keep cutting from the stream? So I'd keep going back to. I think I probably streamed your stream like 5 times today.
I did not mean for it to collapse. I think because we've had snow here, it was like the internet was super spotty all day today. So it kept telling me it was streaming in poor quality. It was like, if you continue to stream in poor quality, we're cutting it off. And apparently it did. It just shut me off. So I'm hoping I do not have those issues moving forward.
Well, either way, it was kind of funny. Like I said, I think I watched it probably four or 5 times before I realized that it was actually like cut short. And then also I Googled Guns N' Roses pizza because I was curious. And I learned in 1993, Guns N' Roses ordered pizza in the middle of their show. And then they let the pizza girl who delivered it play the rest of the set in front of the audience.
Just like Halo Reach, if you think about it.
If you really think about it, it's just like Halo Reach. Yep. Oh, and you said David Spare. I mean, I don't know. It's a Halo game, so obviously I wasn't enthused, but 93. I gotta because the listener, I gotta rate it higher than whatever the highest rating of the game is. I think that's a new thing I'm gonna add in.
Oh,
There
Boo,
you go,
you
91.
coward.
Yeah, 93.
That dude is a 78 at best.
Yikes.
Ouch. And I'm Liz Noob, gamertag, come on, I'm Dean, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Liz Noob. Noob is EW.
Oh, but one thing, speaking of our listener, he also commented that he played this game when he was 4 years old. That's
Jeez.
impressive.
All right, he gets an 81.
I'm sticking with the 93.
But anyway, thank you all for joining us. We love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh, I have to be so bad. All right, so next
And
week,
then we'll
Avowed.
get Ellie. Bye, guys.
When does that come up?
Bye.
Is that
Uh,